I feel like we saw this huge boom of med spas opening after COVID, right? And so with any boom, comes a little bit of a bust, and I'm seeing that a bit.
Today I'm talking with Gina Graziano, founder of Med Spa Matchmaker, who spent 18 years as an aesthetic rep working with top dermatologists and plastic surgeons before trying to open her own med spa and discovering exactly how much nobody tells you about the business side, and then building a company to fix it. Hi, Gina. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you on Behind the Numbers. Let's get started with you telling me a little bit about yourself, how you came to start the Med Spa Matchmaker and what that does.
Thanks, Shannon. Happy to be here. So again, my name is Gina Graziano. I have been an aesthetic rep in the field of beauty for about 18 years. I started at a publication called New Beauty, which I would work with top dermatologists and plastic surgeons across the Northeast. We would experiment with injectables and fillers and lasers, and really it was a beautiful entry into the field of aesthetics and where I just fell in love with this industry. I've sold injectables and fillers and biostimulators. I've sold all sorts of crazy products from Korea. I've sold devices, and I was a manager for a major device company and radio frequency company in New York and New Jersey for several years. And then I went out on my own and went to go open a med spa. And when that happened, despite being entrenched in the field, very familiar with every vendor, really thought I had the most rock solid plan going in. When you really started to peel back the books and look at what is OSHA, how do I get this information, right? What are the laws in my state and how do I read ambiguity? I really went down this path of how do you set yourself up the right way? How do you get all your resources in one place? And it's really spiraled from there. So for the last 4 years, I've been running Med Spa Matchmaker. We now have a legal arm, someone who does branding and marketing. I have an operations and HR professional, a clinical trainer on staff. And so we really do everything from business audit and analysis, hiring, coaching, training, scaling, VC preparation. So live, breathe, and sleep med spa, and super happy to be here today.
Yeah, I love that you have the experience, both, like I said, coming in from the outside and looking at a lot of different med spas, I'm sure, and then also the experience of having in or still being in owning your own med spa and really that day-to-day operations as well. So when we talk about the day-to-day operations, what's working really well for you right now with some of the people that you're working with in the space?
Yeah. So it's funny. I feel like we saw this huge boom of med spas opening after COVID, right? This huge influx of doctors from outside of what we call our core doctors, aesthetic doctors, derms, plastics, and started pulling from internal medicine, OBGYN, emergency room doctor. We're starting to see some of those businesses either sell to venture capital or larger chains or kind of peter out. And so with any boom, comes a little bit of a bust, and I'm seeing that a bit. So some med spas that are doing well during this time are in a very strong position to hire on a bunch of people who have come from corporate chains who have gotten some really great training and are ready to move into something a little bit more bespoke. So I'm finding that hiring is going well right now. And that's a tough thing normally, especially to find injectors. But I am finding a lot of people are getting that itch to move. I'm also finding that almost every one of my clients needs to take a breath and restructure some of the less sexy things right now. Your standard operating procedures, your layers of management and oversight, new goals, new commission programs. Because sometimes we have to pick our head up and things have changed. We have new treatments, new people. People want to make more money. Sometimes we have to look and reorient and see where we're at. So I'm doing a lot of that restructuring now, which I always tell this story. I bought an old house from the 1940s. And when I first bought it, I was so excited to get all my couches and my artwork. And what I ended up spending money on was redoing the electricity in the home, a boiler, and 3 hot water heaters, right? And I thought to myself, well, this is nonsense. I put $30,000 behind the walls where I can't see it. That's not fun. But that's what saves your house, right? Preventing that electrical fire, right? And so it's kind of the same thing with setting up those structures in a spa. So I'd say a lot of hiring, a lot of structuring right now.
I love that hiring is finally becoming a bright spot, because I feel like for so long that has been one of the things that for our clients has been a struggle, right? Like finding the right people, keeping the right people, all of that. So I love that that's finally starting to turn. And you're absolutely right, like having that internal structure, because without it, like your next 60, 90 days of growth could come tumbling down. I mean, I just go back to your house analogy. Like if the electrical isn't right and you spend all money on furniture and art, and then there's an electrical fire, everything's gone, right?
Exactly.
That We don't want fires in our business. So sometimes we do have to step back and do the unsexy things for sure. What about finances? What are some of the biggest financial bright spots that you're witnessing right now? And what are the growth edges that you're navigating there?
So I'll say I do have a lot of growth minded clients lately, which has been really fun because we're getting down and understanding all of the numbers that are in those benchmarking conversations at a spa. So obviously, revenue per hour per room, revenue per provider, making sure your payroll percentages are in line, looking at your marketing and understanding your cost per lead and cost per acquisition, looking at our consults and seeing how many people we convert, looking at our retention rate, and really understanding those numbers. And I'm finding I have a lot of people that are looking for their next locations or VC activity. So we're starting to talk about these numbers specifically and track their growth and actually see the changes over time. I'm a data girl and I always love when the numbers support what we're doing because at the end of the day, we can feel better about the changes, but we want that to impact our bottom line. That's the most important thing. So I'd say I'm having more conversations around teaching people how to understand those numbers or understanding if they're off, what that means, right? If our retention is off, why? Is it a breakdown in the treatment itself or the provider? Is it in the experience at the practice? Is it that our pricing's off? And fixing things before we expand, before we take that next location on. So I always love a data-driven decision that affects all of our activities. So it's been nice to see that change. Where I think some of the growth edges is in my independent spas that maybe aren't in growth mode. A lot of times I'll ask in my initial intake what I think are pretty basic questions, right? What percentage of your revenue is in injectables and fillers? What percentage is in retail? What percentage is your payroll? What do you pay for your Dysport and your Botox? And if we can't answer those questions off the bat, then we're not tracking any activities that will relate to profit at the end of the day. So that's where I really love to teach because I think understanding the business side is something that you don't, even if you're a wonderful provider, you never go through that in school. No one teaches you how to run a business. And after pulling back the books on over 100 practices across the country, I really start to see patterns that emerge. And those patterns can create really good goals for your team. When the team has a goal and we move towards it, then the business succeeds. It's just very basic sales coaching 101 that I find exciting.
And really, not even just sales coaching, but business coaching, right? Because, like you said, what we measure changes, right? And we have to know where we're starting. I mean, I love the Google Map analogy. Like, half of where you're going is where you're going. The other half is where you're starting from. Like when it tells you 18 hours from home because you're starting from home, but really you're going to go be on a trip and be in the area and it's only 5 minutes. That matters, right? And so where are we starting and where are we going? And yeah, that all matters for sure. So in some of my research before we started talking, I ran across another conversation where you talked about a 3.5 times injector profitability benchmark that every med spa owner needs to know. It's one of those benchmarks that you maybe mentioned in that list you just gave. But can you walk us through what that means and why practice owners either aren't tracking it or getting it wrong?
100%. So I want to preface this. It's not a hard and fast rule, right? I have some practices in Manhattan that spend $50,000 a month on ads and their break even is going to be a lot higher in production expectations. But in general, what I found pulling back the books on about 100 practices is my break even point. So for the practice to not make any money, but not lose any money is generally 3.5 times a provider's salary. So if a provider makes $100,000 a year, inclusive of base rate, commission, benefits, education bonuses, everything in tandem, they would need to create $350,000 in services for the practice, just for the practice to break even. I think it's important to share these numbers with your team because sometimes our providers think that med spas just print money and you're sitting there on 70% profit and I deserve a piece of that profit. Right. But sometimes it's humbling to say, well, Sally, you're asking for a raise. You're making $100,000 a year. You're only putting out $200,000. So we are $150,000 under break even on your role. Right. Number one, now the injector understands where the business is and they're not going to ask for more until they start to pull their weight. Number two, the business doesn't get into a situation where they're trying to keep people and just giving raises before we can afford it. right? Is that a good provider that contributes to the business? Ideally, we would want that provider at least 5 times salary, because the point is not to break even, it's to become profitable, right? So if that same provider now makes 500,000 and I'm 150 over break even, I usually keep 15 to 25% of that as a practice owner. Right. So I can start to make money on my providers. And then I usually see hyper bonus structures at maybe 7.5 or 10 times revenue, which is absolutely where an excellent injector can get to. So I think it's all about understanding who you have. Are they driving the business forward? And can we make sure compensation aligns at least when you break even and not before?
Yeah, I absolutely love, Gina, that you reframe that as, or preface that as, a target, right? I mean, we talk about profitability targets and operating expense targets and payroll targets. We understand, just like the Google Maps, like where are you starting? It's going to take you time to figure out where you're starting, maybe even, and then to make the changes to get there. It's not an overnight thing. But it is good to know what those targets are, what an excellent provider is capable of, because so many times I feel like all businesses, we kind of get in our own bubble and we feel like people are doing great, but we don't really have comparisons, and comparisons are helpful in some place for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I also love, Gina, I'm a huge fan of sharing your books with your team. And so I want to talk a little bit more about that with you, and like what else you recommend sharing. I find so many times, like you said, business owners don't get business training. We are amazing technicians at whatever it is we do. And then all of a sudden we're like, I'm going to start a business doing this, and we really don't know. And one of the fears I find business owners have is like somebody's going to leave and go start their own, right? And one of the ways I think we can prevent that is to be really open and honest with them about what else it takes and educate them on running the business. Because to your point, somebody making $350,000 thinks they should be making more money, and they have no clue what it takes to run a business. So what else are you talking about finances with teams?
Yeah. So I'm with you. I am a big proponent of transparency, because especially in independent spas, people inherently want to help and want to have a positive working environment. When you're understanding that it's not just that people don't want you to make more money, it's because literally you haven't pulled your weight. It reframes the dynamic, right? I would say, other than that, I talk a lot about minimizing expenses and where the profitability is across the different services in the practice. So a lot of injectors will think, well, my injectables and fillers, they run the business. It's what we do the most of. That's the most profitable service. Most times it's not, especially if you're a newer spa that is just getting started and doesn't order hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of injectables yet, right? The less you order, the more you spend. So when we look at cost of goods sold, when people understand that vial of Dysport is $580, so when you don't pull all of the units out of it, when we have leakage, that is a big expense. And then I often do contests and promos and special commission programs around our high profitability services, which are devices. So I think understanding that, teaching that, and compensating around that, when you make more money, the staff makes more money, shapes the behaviors that we want. And then I often find that people just want direction. So a lot of times that front desk person isn't not reaching out or not making calls because they don't want to or because they don't have the capacity to, but they don't know what to say. They don't know what you want them to say. They don't know what the goals of the business are. They don't know if there's a priority to how they reach out or a priority in the treatments we want to attract, because that doesn't distill down to the front desk sometimes. So transparency with all of this, a game plan, actionable items broken out into daily tasks with someone to help script, control, and hold people accountable. I mean, really, that in and of itself is going to drive activity forward and drive profit forward.
Yeah, I love all of that. I love the team communication, right? It's just so important in small business, especially. Like everybody has to be on the same page, driving in the same direction. Gina, I would love for you to have an opportunity to tell us a little bit more about the Med Spa Matchmaker and what you all do there, what a typical client experience would look like if somebody is looking for that kind of help.
Yeah, so anyone who's looking to connect, first, we offer a complimentary 30-minute consults. You can find that link on our website at themedspamatchmaker.com or on Instagram at medspa_matchmaker. So you can book a complimentary 30 minutes where we can kind of go through, understand your situation, and I can craft something really bespoke for you. I don't have really set plans to put people into. All of my projects are completely customized because everyone's needs are different, but we really span the gamut. If you're looking to open for the first time and don't know where to start, we can guide you through that process. If you need help hiring, training, scaling, understanding your numbers. I usually start with a financial audit to understand where you're at and see if there's anything glaring that we can point out to you as areas of opportunity, or we can go into very siloed art of a consultation trainings or commission planning. We touch every end of that. And I do have a legal team, someone who helps with marketing and branding. I have an HR professional and an injector professional. So all things med spa. If I don't have it, I can certainly connect you with the right person.
Amazing. As we wrap up today, is there anything else that you feel like is on your mind that you want to share with people in the wellness industry as they walk away from this conversation?
Look, I think right now, Med Spa is in a very fun place. We're at this cross section of getting all these functional aesthetic medicine products, doing things like exosome injections, stem cells, right? Functional aesthetic medicine. There's so many ways to grow and expand and give people more options for longevity, overall wellness, and health. This isn't a siloed practice anymore where it's for the vain and the vapid and just people that want to slow down aging. It's people that want to feel better, live longer, and feel better doing it, right? And so this encompasses every person that's over the age of 30 now, male and female, right? And if you look at the profile of people that are spending, it's all over the board. From 20s, we're getting preventative Botox and preventative facials. We're dipping into the 80s and 90s now with Med Spa, which is unheard of, right? My grandparents get treatments done. It's wild. So I think the opportunity should excite everyone who's in this industry. And I'm just seeing, because of the consolidation that's happening, I think we're getting back to providers who love this industry, who really find joy in aesthetics and making people feel more confident and more like themselves. The expansion opportunities are vast. It's going to be incredible to see where this industry goes in the next 5 years. And if you can embody that and be excited by that, I think it just translates really easily to the patient. So I would just say the opportunities there. You've got to kind of roll with the punches and update your service list and move with the way the industry moves. So if you haven't explored your service list in a while, if you haven't taken a look at where your numbers are at, if you haven't considered any changes to your programs or memberships, there's so many tools now that don't cost $200,000 like a laser that can literally revamp your menu, and it should be fun. So I really love this industry, and I love working with people who just can't get enough of it. So if you're out there, I'd love to connect and talk.
Awesome. Gina, your energy is contagious. I love how much fun you are having working with these people. And I just want to say, because our audience spans a lot of wellness industries, what Gina just talked about as far as longevity is true in every wellness industry. Like, people want to live better longer, and that is an opportunity for everyone who's in the industry to really, like Gina said, just take a look at what you're doing and be one of those growth-minded clients that Gina talked about earlier. So thank you so much, Gina, for being here today. Like I said, super fun conversation, and I think our audience will get a lot from it.
Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Behind the Numbers. If today's conversation resonated with you, subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss a new episode every week. And if you're a health or wellness business owner who's ever wondered what's really going on behind your own numbers, I'd love to talk. Head to fitforprofit.com to learn more or book a complimentary clarity call. We'll see you next week.